Actually, my mom helps. She says I can write it down.
Bless you.
This looks easy, but when you look at this, it makes it easier.
Yeah.
Looks good. Yeah, now this is where I'm confused. Oh no, same answer.
I didn't get A's for chocolate course. Yeah, but we didn't know A's last week. So I read it down. How much you made because you see all the negatives. She gave me the end result and times the negative. Last year she gave us the complete answer book for everything.
I think they have
And then I
actually.
went through it. Well, it only has for something certain one. It doesn't have for the other two. So it helped me last year to have all the answers. Just go through them and do them.
Oh, yeah.
Alright guys, does anybody need a blank copy of the practice test to give out last time? Practice test? Yeah. Anybody else?
What do you have after chocolate course?
Anybody else need it?
Like right after? What time's Spanish? I have like an hour and a half gap.
If we made corrections on our homework, when do we have those?
We're due by the day of the final. So you have
I
time
have
to turn in anytime.
he wants the
Ramon
rough
Britton?
draft for the first.
Raymond Britton? Oh, Elisa?
The first.
Caballero?
Right, his due.
Elisa?
I haven't even done it.
Paula?
And he was gonna give us another assignment, but we ran out of time.
Anthony?
Right here.
Terry Chris? Ivy Crawford? Ivy? Carissa? Are you Ivy? Maria? Mark? Porter?
Yeah.
Norma? Norma? Hendricks? Hey. Catherine? Maldonado? Catherine? Sarah?
Wait, which one?
Mills?
Yeah.
I understand. Tiva? Jessica?
Right here.
Justin? Norwood? Justin? Mariana? Nunez? Michelle? Name? Michelle? Frank? Amara? Antonio? Megan? Mark? Wiggins? Okay. Victoria?
Right here.
Okay. All So, I know I keep forgetting about the learning assessment, so I think everybody's done that by now. And you have the printout. Hopefully, what I wanted to do for you is to try to interpret what the hell it means, right? 'Cause, one really interesting thing, we used to have a different assessment that I kind of liked better, but then it just went away, so that kind of sucks. But this one still kind of measures the same stuff, it's just a little bit harder to interpret, I think. Did anybody not only do the assessment, but also try to figure out what those things meant? They kind of give you the scale, you go more this way or more that way. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about? Let me start there. I understand. So there's a learning assessment, there's a link on the website that you go log in and answer these questions. Okay, all right. So if you haven't done it yet, do it. Because it's something that we never think about, and as teachers, we have to be really careful because since there's so many different ways to learn things, I have to try to have several different ways to explain things, several different ways to teach things, right? So I have to have a little hands-on, a little verbal, a little audio, a little visual. So you have to have the tactile. You can actually work with something. You can watch something being done. You can hear how it's done. All these different ways to attack the different ways that people learn, right?
Did you want us to turn it?
No, actually, no. That's just for yourselves. So, but I want you to understand what it means. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I didn't do this morning. I'm going to print out the how to interpret that for yourself, right? One of the most important parts of that, and I think this probably wouldn't be a big surprise to those of you. There's the difference between visual and verbal learners, but there's also the active and reflective. So there's those of us that have to actually sit down and do something. So how many of us would count ourselves as that? You can't just explain it to me. I got to actually do it. I got to do something with my hands, right? How many guys? Me personally, what I do the last time I took a class, I would take notes like crazy, and then I would kind of like reorganize them, and then I would never look at them again because that act of writing it out a couple times, it's in my head now, right? Whereas that won't work for all of us. Some of us are purely auditory. People would come, they would videotape. They would tape my class before I start doing the videotape, and then they could listen to it over and over, right? So there are several different ways that our brains are set up to accept new information and process it. So part of being a good student and helping yourself out is knowing how the hell that happens for you. So you make sure you get that, right? Hopefully your teacher is aware, whatever teachers you have after this, are aware of all the different learning styles, and they have to have corresponding teaching styles to match those. All right, how do you guys feel that? So I'll print out, it's kind of extensive, so I'll try to pare it down so that you guys can interpret what these things mean, and I'll see if, next time we'll talk about it, I'll see if anybody wants to volunteer what they are. Right, so I'll bring my results. Yeah, that's the one. So at the end there were results. There were like a scale of where you fell. So when you hit the submit button, it would give you, don't worry. Yeah, that's the one. It's got like a scale. So I didn't bring mine. I want to tell you what I am off that scale. It's a little different from what I was on the other assessment, but I'm essentially the same person, I would expect, how I learn. All right, so today is purely review day. We can talk about the practice test. I've got the answer key. We can talk about problems from homework. If we're talking about something you totally understand, you can finish your homework, because when is the homework due? Yeah, that's the first day. If you don't turn it in that day, if you don't turn it in next Tuesday, and you try to turn it in later, that'll be late. I don't knock off a crazy amount of points, but it's still not full credit. So you want to try to get it turned in next Tuesday if you haven't turned it in already. Okay, so today it's purely up to you guys, truly. If there's no questions at all, I might just start kind of stepping through the practice test. Right, but I kind of let you guys drive what you want to talk about. Yeah.
The homework that's due is just the chapter 1 homework.
Chapter 1 and 2.
Oh.
Yeah. So this test is going to be on chapter 1 and 2.
Can I use it?
Say again?
Chapter 1, I see.
Can you give it to me? Yeah, sure.
I think I didn't submit it.
Anytime you want to give me homework.
I didn't submit it.
Oh, you might have turned it in?
I turned it in.
All right. Oh, but you didn't hit the submit button?
Yeah.
I got you. So go back and put the same answers in and it hits submit. And it comes up with a little interpretation screen. A little, this is who you are. Yeah.
I also have the homework corrections.
Say again, sorry?
The homework corrections are also due in capacity. The homework corrections.
Oh, sorry, thank you. I couldn't hear that one word. Homework corrections are due on what day? Who remembers?
Day before the final.
The day of the final. Now, and I do that, you can do homework corrections if you have time. If you're not done with the other homework, that's your first priority. Then your second priority is a practice test. Give that a try. And your third priority is corrections on homework. Unless there were like a crazy amount of things you had to correct. You want to go back and make sure you understand that section. The reason I make it do the day of the final is because the final is cumulative. And I don't want you to get behind on homework. So you do corrections when you can, and if you can't do it until the end of the semester, then that's getting you ready for the final. So it's still a win. Yeah. Winning. Yeah.
Question on this one. Eight, that's negative on the outside. Wouldn't they both be negative?
No. So it's more like that.
Yeah.
Now guys, look here. Just looking at this, is it a negative number?
Yes.
Yes. If there was a negative on the top and the bottom, would it still be a negative number?
No.
What do those two negatives do? Cancel.
Okay.
So there's a negative sitting out front. So there's three different ways to write this. You could write this as a negative 72/8, or you can write this as negative 72 over 8, or you can write this as 72 over negative 8. That negative just floats all over the place. As long as it's in there, it's still the same number at the end.
Then the end result was be a negative essentially.
Exactly. So no matter what you look at it, how you look at it, that's 9, and then there's a negative floating around in there.
Got it.
So you do have the option to put it, we normally put it like up here or out there. We really don't normally leave a negative sitting on the bottom. That was a little strange. All right, that's one question down.
Last one.
Say again, sorry?
Negative 72 and negative 8.
Yeah, so if it was this one, the first thing I would do is kill those negatives.
Yeah.
And then 72 divided by 8, positive number. Now, one real quick thing. I'm thinking about what I've seen in homework. What's the main difference between those two problems?
Negative by negative.
The first one has absolute values. So they are probably not going to end up being the same answer, right? What am I allowed to do here that I'm not allowed to do here? Yeah, cancel the negatives. Because here, is there anything to do in the parentheses? Anything to do in the parentheses? No. Here, is there anything to do in the parentheses, in the absolute values? Yes, because the absolute value negative 3 is 3. So this is 3, and that's got to come for the ride. Whereas here, the two negatives cancel.
Plus 3.
So these cancel out, so you get 3. Good, because you know it's a little bit evil to have this right after this, because you kind of get in a roll with these, and then they throw this at you. So I saw that in the homework. Boom, 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 and then oops, because they're kind of evil. But be careful, if it's a parenthesis, it's allowed to go in there. If it's an absolute value, you got to do the absolute value first. Order operations. Okay, cool. Any other specific questions about? So I tell you this, if I'm always a little worried because I want today to be constructive. I always want the day of the review to be constructive. And if there aren't a lot of questions coming at me, that kind of makes it not very constructive. How many guys have already started working on the practice test? A few guys. Oh, decent number. Cool. How many guys have finished the practice test? All right, sweet, sweet. Well, I've got the answer key. I'll give it to you in a bit. How many guys are almost done with your homework? Or done? All the way through the end of chapter 2. Okay.
Chapter 1.
All right. So, gotcha. So let's do this. I really want you to understand what you can get from today. You can ask, if nobody's asking a question, you can ask any damn thing you want to. You can say, can you explain that whole freaking minus and negative thing again? You can ask, you know, anything. Math related. Did you see that show last night? Yes.
You have. Hold on, I've got to find it. Sorry. Okay, right here. -2 minus 42. It's negative 44, right?
Oh, -2.
Minus 42?
Yep.
So negative 44?
Yep.
Minus 44.
Yeah, okay.
Negative 44.
I like that. Hey, quick question, yes. Is that cool, everybody? I mean, they're both negative. So I still get, every now and again, I still get people telling me this is positive, and they'll say, because you keep telling us that 2 negatives make it positive, but that's only when you multiply or divide, right? When you're adding, when you're combining things, subtracting or adding, negatives add to each other. They get even more negative. Owed $2, owe $42, I still owe $44. So I like that idea of keeping it as money, because we can actually see that happening. Oh, you 2? I owe you 42? Shit, I owe $44 altogether. I'm not $44 ahead somehow. Yeah, sorry.
Negative 9f equals 64 minus f.
Negative 9
F.
F?
F.
F.
Yeah.
The letter F
Yeah.
equals
64 minus f.
64 minus F. And that's coming out of section 2.6? Okay. All right, so let's build up to that problem. Sorry, it's just a little further than I thought they would go. And that's out of section 2.6. Which number is that?
5.
Number 5, I like it. Oh, okay. So let me make sure you understand why I just had to double check everything. Section 2.6 does not get into equations that require more than kind of one or at most 2 steps. And in fact, they're not even really dealing with when we get to the true big equations where there's a lot going on, it might take us a while to solve it. We're going to have to do multiple weird things, and we're just trying to learn one step at a time. So when he first shot this to me, I'm like, well, that's a little too much for this section. There's too many things going on at once. Well, what they really ask is -8 a solution? Right? They're not just giving it to you and say, solve this. They're saying in that problem, they're saying, is -8 a solution to this? Now, hopefully nobody's worried about using F. You could use whatever letter you want to. X just happens to be one that they liked because they thought it meant treasure was there. No, I don't know. All right. Real quick, yes.
Are we going to go over chapter 3 today?
Not at all. No. Cool. Yeah, today's pure review. We're not going to do anything new today. We're going to get ready for that test on Tuesday. How do I check to see if this is a solution? What do I do?
Plug it in.
Plug it in.
Plug it in, cool. So you wanna see if that works for F. So you plug it in, wherever you see F, you plug it in. Alright, so now it's -9 times F, which I'm saying it might be
Eight.
-8. And we're saying it does that equal 64 minus, and what's F?
Nine.
Possibly?
Eight.
-8. And you can see why I was really specific. I'll get somebody do this all the time. They'll do this. And they won't understand why it's wrong. Because they'll say, well, there's your -8, Jeff. Why is that wrong? Why is that wrong? F is -8, but what else is in there already? Already the minus sign, right? So it's got to be minus F, which itself is -8. So that's why I said to be really careful when you substitute things back in. You can always put it in parentheses. It'll maintain the operations that are going on. You won't suddenly create a brand new problem.
Page 135.
Oh, real quick, we gotta finish this out. So what's this side here?
72.
Yeah, the two negatives cancel.
72.
72. And what's minus a negative? Plus. And what's 64 plus 8? 72. Check. So you'd say yes, F is -8 is a solution. In fact, we know that it is the solution. There's only one solution to this. Is that decent? The other mistake I see people make on that is they'll do this. I'll see this all the time. -9 times F is -8. 64 minus F. And then they'll try to do something. And of course, what mistake did they make? They didn't finish putting -8 in for F. So don't think it can only go in once. If F is -8, everywhere you see F, you put a -8. Right? So that's the mistake they made right there. 64 minus -8. And then you get to where we got there. Cool. How you guys doing? What's up? Oh, this was me explaining a mistake somebody made, right? So they forgot to replace the F with the -8. So the question is -8 a solution? So what that really means, what that question means is, if you plug -8 in for F, does it end up being true? That's another way to read that. So here the mistake they made was they didn't finish plugging in -8 in for F, but if you do that, it does end up being true.
So, plugging it in, -9 and -8 is 72.
And then 64 plus 8 is 72. So since this is true, that must mean that -8 is a solution, yes. Cool. Yeah.
The ones that are like close to me are the ones that are like, so -5 minus 6.
-5 minus 6. So, again, sometimes it's bad that there's so many ways to look at these. But you have to pick the way that makes the most sense to you. So, the most technically straightforward, not involving digging holes and filling them with sand and money and all this kind of crap. You have two numbers that are both negative, right? So when they're both the same sign, you add them and put the sign back on.
So minus 11.
So 5 plus 6
Minus
is
11.
11, and you put the negative back on. So a little side work would be 5 plus 6 is 11, but then you have to put the negative back on. Exactly, because you're already 5 down, and what's subtract mean? Go even further down. So whenever you subtract a positive number, you're getting even further down. So if you're already negative, you're going to end up even more negative. So that's why when I see the answer as 11, I'm like, how did you climb out of that hole when you were going further down? Yeah. You got popped out in China. It's not going to work. Yeah.
And number 27.
check it in the book. I think that wasn't part of the problem. Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, so in this example you just now gave, why wouldn't you, cancel out the negatives on that, on the way it's,
I like it.
written out?
Here's the thing. Here's why these negatives do not cancel. What is that negative? Let me see if you guys understand if I say this. What is that negative acting on? What is that negative actually acting on? Let me complete that question because you'll see what I mean. The 5, right? It's the negative on that 5. That minus sign, what's it acting on? The 6. I'm subtracting the 6. So is that negative sign and that minus sign, are they acting on each other? Are they? No. He can't jump over that 5, right? It's the negative 5. So that negative is involved there, and that's a minus 6. The negatives aren't acting on each other. Whereas if I had this,
If you have something in the middle of both of them?
if I had this, what's that negative acting on?
Another negative?
That negative. Oh, okay. See, now that's why multiplication, they'll cancel. But when you're combining, it's just the idea of if I'm already negative and I'm subtracting, I'm getting more negative.
So what
Which is
kind
how you feel normally in
of-
college.
What kind of question would
With
you
a
come
financial
with
situation.
on the one on top?
I'm sorry, say again?
What kind of question would that be?
That's it. It would just say simplify. Right, this is, I think, off the quiz. I think this is one of the, I think I had this problem with the quiz. Negative 5 minus 6 on one of the versions.
I've not seen it somewhere.
That's all right. But don't get stuck on individual problems. Let me see if you guys understand this. That problem here is the same as, is the exact same problem as this. It's the exact same problem as this. These are all the same problem. I want you to start realizing that. They're not each separate things that I have to concern myself with how to do it. I do them all the same way.
Addition, is that an
Yeah,
addition?
they're all the same sign. So I add and then put the sign back on. So 5 and 6 is 11, put the negative. 8 and 7 is 15, put the negative. 10 and 4 is 14, put the negative. So the biggest mistake people make in math is they consider every single problem to be its own problem, to be like, oh, I've got this whole new problem now, I've got to figure it. No, these are all the same problem. They have different players in it, but they're all the same problem. Add, put the sign back on, add, put the sign back on. Even this one. Aren't they both positive?
Yeah.
So I add
And leave it alone.
and put the sign back on, which is positive. Right, so even that's the same. Okay. So what about these problems here? I'm getting really high up in my Roman numerals are getting high. These are all the same problem. Because every single one of these, they have different signs, don't they?
Yeah.
So what's the idea then? If they have different signs, what do you do? Subtract, and then put the sign of the bigger one. So 8 minus 5 is, yeah, good. I like it's 3, and then put the negative because the 8's bigger. 7 minus 2 is 5. The bigger one's negative. Now, I mean, you always have other ways to look at this. If I'm 7 down and they go up 2, I'm going to have to end up at 5 down, right? I'm not as far down as I used to be. Owe somebody $7. Here's $2, Mickey. Don't break my thumbs. I still owe them $5, but I'm a little bit better than I used to be, right? Same thing here. 11 minus 5, 6. The sign of the bigger. Yeah. So what about this one here? Roman numeral 8. Yeah, 29 minus 14 is 15. So you can always do it underneath, there's no problem. 15, and the bigger one is positive. So you leave it positive. Sweet.
What about this one down here,
Oh, yeah, let's do that. So is that okay with everybody? Anybody want to see any more of those? Because I have a request, I want to look at those English to math problems, like number 3 on the practice test. So it's on the practice says 3A says 5. Let me write it. 5, no math, less than 3 times the number. So what are my two players here? Let's start there. I got the number 5,
Less.
and I've got, what's 3 times the number? How do you write that?
3.
I like it, 3 what? Or 3S, or 3W, or 3 whatever. 3 happy face. So those are my two players here, right? And what's the operation that's going to end up between them?
Minus?
Minus, right? Because it's less than. It's 5 less than that. So how do I have to write that? Remember that less than was equal?
3y. 5 minus.
3y minus 5. Remember that? 5 less than 3y. That less than is the only one that turns it around. Right? Because 2 less than 10 is 8. It's not 2 minus 10 negative 8.
When you write it 5 minus 3.
No,
You can't.
you can't. Because if I said 3 less than 5, if I said my little sister is 3 years younger than my little brother's 5, so she's 3 years less than 5. And you do this, how old is she? I'm psychic. My sister's coming in 2 years. She's negative 2 years. T minus 2 and counting. Right? My mom's going. Which way should you write it, of course? Because 3 less than 5. If I'm 3 years less than 5, I'm 2 years old.
Put 3x minus 5.
No unknown number here, right? There's no unknown number here. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at a different example. Sorry. Little side note. So 3 less than 5 should be 5 minus 3. Now that girl is 2 years old, thankfully, and not some gleam in an eye or something. You guys ever heard of that expression? Back when you were a gleam in my eye.
So is that the right way to write it?
All right. Your teacher's even older than you thought. So this is how you would translate this, and then you can work it out. So, but that's an example of why the less than is evil. It's always going to turn it around. Because if you do write this, that is the opposite sign of this, believe it or not. What if y is 1? What if y is 1? What's this? Stay with me now. What if y is 1? Because remember, what is y? A number I don't know yet.
It'd be to the first power, right?
Right? And I'm the teacher. I'm going to tell you, y is 1.
Would that be to the first power?
No powers involved, but it would be. But no powers here. If y is 1, what is this? 3 times 1 minus 5, which is this situation here, right? And that's wrong. We know it's wrong already. You see the method to my madness? We know that's wrong. For this situation, sorry, it's not wrong for over here.
Let me be perfect example.
What's this though? It's going to be opposite sign. Watch, it'll be 5 minus 3 times 1. 5 minus 3 is 2. They're opposite signs. So you can't just do one way or the other. This is when you get to algebra and you start doing these problems about Farmer John wants to build a pen for his pigs. And then you start telling me, well, this side's got to be negative 8 feet long. Negative 8 feet long. And the mistake people make is they turn this thing the wrong way. And then they come up and they just say negative 8 feet long and they turn it in. I'm like, do you realize there's a problem here? What material would get negative 8 feet? That's free. Right? Some kind of black hole material. All right. How do we feel about that? So that's the one to be careful about, that less than. Yes?
Yeah, I was doing B, and so far now I've got a little stuck on one, like I simplified 1 minus negative 20. And
Oh, cool, that one?
the thing is I don't know whether to add or subtract that simplification.
Gotcha.
That's,
You still need to do the other side to that. 3.
So on 2B, and I tell you that A is negative 2 and Z is 1. And some of you guys start to realize why I make my z's the way I do, because in some of the homework I see when there's a z, you guys make it a 2. When actually they told you z is 3 or something. So I always make that little line, it tells me, okay, it's not a 2. It's the letter Z. So what do I put in there? 1. So don't look in order. Look at Z as 1. And of course 10 times negative 2.
Negative 2.
I like it. So all I did was replace this with 1, and I replaced this with negative 2. So what do I do first here?
1, 1.
Yeah, 1 squared is
1.
1. I know it's ground shaking. And then what's the next operation I do here?
Multiply 10 by negative 2.
I like it. Multiply before subtract, right?
Yeah.
We all kind of fall into a little bit of a trap when we're like, okay, I did that successfully, thank God, and then here you just do negative 9 without thinking. The real focus of this problem is, do you know your order of operations? So I don't do the subtraction first. I have to do, and there's a couple different ways to do this. Me, I like to do negative 10 times negative 2 is plus 20.
Yeah.
So negative times negative makes it an addition now. What you could do is say 1 minus, and what's 10 times negative 2?
20.
10 times negative 2?
Negative 20.
But then what's the minus and negative do in the next step?
Plus. 21. صح.
Is that cool? So you could instead, right here, you could just directly say negative 10 times negative 2 is plus 20. And you still get the 21. Either way, it's going to work out. So let me do this. Let me go ahead and give you guys the answer. And let me warn you. The way to study for this test is not to look at my answer key and agree with me. Yes. Yeah. That's not going to do anything for you. Right? Good job, Jeff. So do the practice test. Check yourself with this. Go back and review whatever you made mistakes on. Don't do the problems in the practice test like more than twice. Because then you start to really know that problem, and I'm not going to give you that problem. I'm going to give you one like it. So you got to make sure you can do stuff like it. So I'm going to start over here. So maybe if you haven't even tried to practice this yet, maybe don't even look at this yet.
No, stay.
Is that a 2?
See, that's exactly what I had marking wrong on my paper, so I was gonna ask you.
So if I could just get my computer to put a line through it, and then you can see this out.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yeah.
So these ones, to figure out that it's a positive, you just say this, or negative, so that you cancel.
Will there be?
Oh. So you're saying you gotta write it all out? So what if there's 100 there?
No, don't write it all out. I'll show you. Don't worry. Appreciate it.
Well, I know you've shown this to us. I just
Don't worry. It's okay. Because this is one of the freakier things. Because, again, this is because we hammer in your head that when you multiply an even number of negatives, it comes out positive. And so whenever you see this, you think that that's, but how far does that 4 go? What is that exponent actually, what's being raised to a 4th power? Just the 2. Right, that is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 16. And then you put a negative on it. The only way that there's 4 negative 2, so I really want you to see. If I rewrote this, this is negative, and what's 4 2s? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only one negative. This says there's 4 of these. So that would be this. So now negative times negative times negative times negative cancels. And now it's going to be positive 16. That is, and believe me, I'm not saying it's okay if you make this mistake. What I'm saying is this is a very easy mistake to make. And I think I've told you, my students all the way up through my highest level ever teach, they do things like this every now and again. I've been known to make this damn mistake when I'm going too fast on something. It's a very simple mistake to make. But here the 4 is not affecting that negative. It can't go that far. Here the 4 is affecting that negative. Now it cancels. And it truly is the same as this. I have a couple of these on the practice test. Problems like this here. What's being squared? 3. And what do you do first? Be careful. The answer is not 36. You don't multiply first.
3 divided 7 power.
You got to do the power first, right? So 2 times 9 is 18. So do you see how that's really the same thing as this? I have a 2 there, it's only 1 2. I have a negative here, there's only 1 negative, right? Same idea. Because what's being squared in each of these cases? Just the 3. The 2 is not being squared here, and the negative is not being squared there. Same exact idea. So if I wanted this 2 to be squared, how would I do it? I'd have to write it like this, so that the square can go to both. Now they're both being raised to a second power. There's 2 of each of these. Whereas here there's only 2 of this.
I don't think I understand why you only do it to one and not all of them, regardless.
Well, it's sort of like, when would it end? Like if I had 1 minus 4 divided by 2 plus 7 squared. Am I going to square all of these numbers?
No.
No, I'm only going to square what it's on.
Only 7. Yeah.
No, I get that, I just don't
Okay.
understand.
Let's try this. What about 4 minus 3 squared?
3 by 3. 9.
That's 4 minus what number?
9.
9, right? I'm not going to square the negative.
Minus 5.
I only square the thing that I'm on, and that's the way that I make the rule clear. I have to draw the line somewhere, and I have to make it very clear what I square. So this is a very different problem from that, right?
Yeah.
What do I do first here?
1.
Yeah, because I'm squaring this number, so the first thing I want to figure out is what the hell is that number? Whereas here, I got 4 minus something, I got to first figure out what that something is.
Yeah.
So the rule is the power can only go to the thing that it's actually sitting on. Parentheses help it sit on more. Here it's only sitting on the 3. Here it's sitting on the whole thing.
I know, I get that, I just
Cool.
I don't understand.
So here it's only sitting on the 2. So I'm only going to have 4 2s.
So it can't sit on the other 4 2s that are in there, so like the other 3 2s, because you have to do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, like I don't understand why the negative is not on all of them.
Oh, because, all right. But do you see the
Probably
difference
gonna-
in
if you want
these?
to ask this later, I'm like the only one.
No, you're
who's
fine. No,
confused.
believe me, there are other people with the exact same question. So don't, I'm not exasperated because your question, I'm just trying to figure out how to say it a different way. So you see the difference between these two, right?
Yeah.
There has to be a difference between these two. Because here the power is on this whole thing. So it's going to have 4 negatives, and those negatives are all going to cancel each other out.
Right.
Whereas here, there's 4 whats? There's 4 2s, not 4 negative 2s.
Oh, so you don't even look at the negative until you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I keep saying, if you have that, it's negative something. Okay, well, what's something? 16. So it's got to be negative 16. So here is 3 squared is 9. There's positive 3 squared.
Right.
And this should be negative 9, because that's negative 3 squared. Whereas this
Yeah. 9.
I square negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3,
9.
9. So here the negative is not affected by the square. It's just sitting in front. It doesn't care what that's doing. It's like negative, come on, what the hell are you? All right, negative 9. Whereas this is square this whole thing, square this number. So then the two negatives will cancel. You can write Jeff, can you? Cool. But believe me, I just said that people in my 285 class make the mistake sometimes. They don't know. So I mean, it's a very simple mistake to make.
So you see that exponent, you want to do it to the whole thing with the
Yeah,
negative.
this
but you're
only,
saying, like,
it can only go to what it's sitting on, whereas like here, it's sitting on the parentheses, so it can go to this whole thing.
Right, I get that. I just.
But here, it's only sitting on the 3, so it could only go to the 3.
Right, no, I don't care what's in front of it. I just want to put the 2 on, or the negative on all of them, since it's in front of
But
it.
now you see why there's 4 2's, but there's only one negative sign.
Right. Right.
Good.
There we go.
I like it. Do you mind? You got it?
Sorry, everybody's tired.
You have a question?
Huh?
Oh, yeah, but it was on
There's
the
negative
chapter,
exponents?
on chapter 2 homework.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay, there's been a long time.
Yeah, the number 30 from 2.3, oh yeah, negative 50, that's supposed to be, subtract negative 50 from negative 50.
Real quick, let me ask you this little side thing. Subtract A from B. I know we're not at the point where we're starting to work with a bunch of variables, but still, how do you subtract A from B? What goes first?
B minus
Yeah, subtract A from B. So here, subtract negative 50, subtract that from negative 50. Careful now. Right? Is that cool? Do you guys see that? So it's really simple to get confused about when a number itself is negative and I'm subtracting. We very often just put one minus sign. That's a whole different problem. I'm subtracting a negative. What happens there? What's subtracting a negative? What do those two negatives do?
Calculate.
So it becomes negative 50 plus 50. 0. So if I owe somebody $50 and I got $50, I live another day. Pay them off, 0. Yes, ma'am.
I thought it was only when it says less than that you turn it around. That's what I was trying to ask.
Well, this is actually, to me, this is nicer. This is nicer. This is, the less than is evil because it hides. When I say subtract something from something, I'm telling you which way to put it in, right? If I say subtract 7 from 10, that's 10 minus 7. Whereas if I say what's 7 less than 10, I'm not really being direct. I'm not saying which way I want you to put it. You just got to know, oh, it's 10 minus 7. I got to turn it around. You guys kind of with me? So when I say subtract, subtract negative 11 from 14, let's say. Subtract negative 11 from 14. So from 14, I'm going to subtract what? Negative 11. So I didn't want to get into that's not, to me, I don't think that's evil. It's telling me a lot more precisely. Subtract this from this. It's not hiding anything. Whereas the less than, I just got to know to turn it around. It's kind of hiding in what order it wants me to do things. Oh, and you know, when I made this practice test, here's why the actual test is going to be a little longer. When I made this practice test, I wasn't really sure if I was going to get through 2.6. So I am going to have a couple of simple equations, you know, like this here. I'm going to say solve. So don't just put the answer and go. You got to show me the work. I know for some of us, this isn't where we have a problem, it's gonna be later. And we're a little bit perturbed, why am I gonna show you the work? You gotta show me that you know how to do it. I don't know you, most of you guys. So what would I do?
Well,
Well,
Plus
Will.
okay, plus 7. And then 7.
exactly, why would I add 7? Because what's my goal? What do I wanna have happen?
Minus 7.
What's my goal?
Find out what X is.
My goal is to get x equals a number.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get rid of all the crap that's with the x. Trying to like dig the x out. And there's a minus 7 with them, so how do I kill that, subtract 7? I add 7, 11.
Positive 7.
And then whatever I do to one side,
You did it out.
remember my Indiana Jones? Whatever I do to one side, I've got to do the other side to keep the balance. So if I add 7 here, I better add 7 there. And then you get 19. Check yourself. 19 minus 7 is 12. Thank God. All right, so I gotta have one like that. And what about if I had one like this?
Divided by 11.
So notice how, to determine what you do, you say, why is the x not by itself? The stupid 11. Okay, what's the stupid 11 doing? It's multiplying. So what are you gonna do? The opposite, divide. Trust me. Let me make sure. Solving equations is obviously one of the most freaking important things you can learn from mathematics, because word problems always get to the point where you get an equation to solve and you desperately want to know, well, how many widgets do I have to make so I can make a profit? You got to solve it down until it says x equals 20. Well, I got to make 20 and then I can start making a profit. That's the important place to get. So getting to this point is crazy important. So as you get further in math, you're going to learn more than just multiply, divide, add, subtract. You're going to learn some other funky functions. How do you solve their equations? You do the opposite. Every single time, you just do the opposite of whatever the hell's happening. So right now it's multiplying by 11. I'm going to divide 11, then the 11's done. So over here I get 8. I love it. Check yourself. 11 times 8 is 88. Check.
And still, when I see them,
But that's all you say. What conversation do you have with yourself? Why is the x not by itself? Stupid 7. What's the operation now? Subtract. What's the opposite? Add. So I'm going to add 7 to kill it. And make sure it actually does die. Yes, sir.
Okay, when we're doing this on a test, is this the way you want us to show the work? Can I just do 12 plus 7?
I want to see this, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Teacher, please teacher. We can say x equal 12 plus 7, that's all. Because we changed this minus 7 to another base.
And then go ahead and make it 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said, as long as you do partial, you'll know where they're coming from.
So what I'm trying to get you ready for is when we hit equations like
Yeah, I get confused when I see all
that,
Yeah.
where if you start not showing yourself what the hell you're doing, you're going to get lost pretty quick.
All right.
So I know these are really simple, and that's a good thing, because we should be able to check them really easy. But I'm trying to tell you, I need to see this so you get practice with it, so you're ready for this kind of monster here, right? Which you're not going to see. I might have one half the size for a bonus. I am going to have some bonus questions. Right, so those of you who are a little bit better with some of these equations, you have a chance to kind of show me, or if you want to try it out, you can try it out. Bonus, you don't get marked down for, you can only get points if you get it right. Yep.
So in that type of equation, would you take the similar numbers and equations that you have on there, the ones that look alike, and add them or together, and then do the next ones like that?
That is your goal.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Unfortunately, and I'm not going to teach this right now too much, but notice how some of my stuff is stuck inside. So the very first thing I always do really is to distribute that through. Then I do what you're saying. Then I get my like terms together. But again, just make sure everybody understands, you are not going to see that on the test unless I want to put it for bonus. Because bonus, I can do whatever the hell I want to. You guys can try it, get some points if you get it right.
Well, because
Oh, yeah. We talked about, I remember, let me do this little talk again real quick. What is 6 divided by 2?
3.
Why?
Because the 2 times,
Because, I love it.
yeah.
Because 2 times 3 is 6. So what is 6 divided by 0? It would be the number. What would have to happen for there to be an answer here? Like this is a 3, that means 2 times 3 is 6. I'd have to put a number here so that when 0 times it would be 6. Is there any number that does that? Any number defined to do that? So this is undefined. Right, this is some little mythical creature lurking in your book.
So we just would put 0 or undefined?
No, don't even put 0. 0 is defined.
And how come our
This
book,
is not 0. This is undefined.
how come our book puts the answer?
Which one? Lisa?
That's why I would just put the, that's why I just put 0.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's not the same question, is it? You're looking at 0 divided by something. Now let's think about that. Let's break down the same way. If I put a number here, it better multiply by 6 to make 0. And what do I multiply anything by to make 0? 0.
Right, so what if you,
This is not the same question, is it? If I have nothing and I have 6 people that want something from me and I have nothing, how much do they each get? There you go. So that's the defined situation. This is freaky as hell. If I try to make this a physical situation, it's going to be very strange, very quick. I have 6 things, and there's nobody around, not even me. How much do each? I don't shit. That's undefined. What the hell are you talking about?
it's the same if it was.
So this doesn't even make physical sense. This is I got nothing divided among 6 people.
You wait for somebody to come around so you can get
I'm not even there myself. That's what's weird about it. You guys with me? So watch this. If I had 6 things and I have one person, me, that wants stuff, then how much stuff do I get? I get 6 things. If I have 6 things and I got 2 people that want stuff from me.
3.
3. If I have 6 things and I got nobody, not even myself, how much do we each? What the hell are you talking about, Jeff? And so that's math is going. That's weird as shit. And so that's why I say it's undefined.
So 6 trees fall in the woods, no one's around to hear them.
Yeah, exactly. Now you start getting into a little more fun. I like it. Yes, ma'am. All right, guys, be really careful about the difference between those 2 problems. This is fine. 0 divided by almost anything is 0. The only thing you can't divide 0 by, believe it or not, is 0. 0 divided by 0 is not 1.
Yeah, well, I would have wrote 0 on the undefined.
0 divided by 0 is bad. It's even worse than this.
Yeah.
Let's not go there. Yeah.
Another way to think about it, you can't stand on a basketball, but you can hold it against your head.
I like it. I like it. So you can't stand on a
So
basketball.
it's undefined.
Well, I sure
You
can't.
do it. I
But you
can't
can put a
do it.
basketball on your head a little easier. Yeah. All right. I like that. Yes, ma'am.
Can you spend the first one again, 6 and 2 and 3?
This year or this year?
That was the top.
So this is true because 2 times 3 is 6. And that's why I can't put a number here because there is no number that I multiply 0 by it to get 6.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Why? You didn't see me.
I'll let them take a picture.
So homework through what section is due on Tuesday?
She's for number 35.
Do 6. Cool. All right. We have until Tuesday. How many of you guys have been in the Math Study Center besides just when we went on our field trip? One. Okay. You probably want to get in there. It's free. How much do tutors normally cost? Anybody ever look that up?
Yeah.
30, 35, 30, no, 15. They ain't getting much money.
I mean, me, I'm a
You get a
negotiator.
$15 an hour tutor, I'm a little worried.
Hey.
Because if you've looked for tutors, you know that when you find one that's 25 bucks an hour, you're like, that's a bargain, because they're normally 25, 30, it's crazy.
I got one that's